Now, I know that you have suggested arming our teachers. And
not your teachers.
Not your,
arming a small portion that are very gun adept, that truly know how to handle. Because I do feel, Governor, it's very important that gun-free zones, you have a gun-free zone, it's like an invitation for these very sick people to go there. I do think that there has to be some form of major retaliation if they're able to enter a school. And if that happens, you're not going to have any problems anymore because they're never going to the school. You're never going to have a problem. So it would just be a very small group of people that are very gun adept. Anyway, go ahead, Governor.
If I may respond to that, let me just suggest whatever percentage it is. I heard at one time you might have suggested 20%. Whatever percentage it is, speaking as a grandfather,
right,
speaking as a governor of the state of Washington, I have listened to the people who would be affected by that. I have listened to the biology teachers, and they don't want to do that at any percentage. I've listened to the first grade teachers that don't want to be pistol packing first grade teachers. I've listened to law enforcement who have said they don't want to have to train teachers as law enforcement agencies, which takes about 6 months. Now, I just think this is a circumstance where we need to listen, that educators should educate, and they should not be foisted upon this responsibility of packing heat in first grade classes. Now, I understand you have suggested this, and we suggest things, and sometimes then we listen to people about it. Maybe they don't look so good a little later. So I just suggest we need a little less tweeting here, a little more listening, and let's just take that off the table and move forward.
All right, thank you very much. You know, we have a number of states right now that do that. I got to watch some deputy sheriffs performing this weekend. They weren't exactly Medal of Honor winners, all right? The way they performed was, frankly, disgusting. They were listening to what was going on. The one in particular, he was early. Then you had 3 others that probably a similar deal a little bit later, but a similar kind of a thing. You know, I really believe, you don't know until you test it, but I think I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon. And I think most of the people in this room would have done that too, because I know most of you. But the way they performed was really a disgrace. Yes, ma'am, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us as governors to participate and give our perspectives, as each of our states are different. And as I've thanked you before, this was not something that we were engaged in before with previous administration. I do see that there is a huge pool of retired law enforcement officers where municipalities and counties have actually invested a lot of money into training them, and now they're retired. And often, because they are receiving a public retirement, they cannot go back into that similar kind of retirement plan. If they go into an educational plan, they can actually work for a school, be trained. The school doesn't have to train them, but also they can learn and figure out where cameras and different security pieces need to be implemented within the schools because of their experience and training. And so this is a pool of folks that we can immediately put out without having to expend great amount of dollars and keeping our schools and our school personnel safe.
It's well said. The fact is that if you have a teacher or you have a coach or you have somebody that's very adept, only adept, and a lot of people don't have anything, they don't know what it looks like, they can't lift it, but only adept at weaponry and guns, and only a small number. You don't need that many. But we all learned a lot over the weekend or last week when you saw a man that was properly armed standing outside, probably afraid to go in, and now it turns out that there were probably 4 of them. They don't love the students. They don't know the students. The teachers love the students, and they want to protect those students. The other thing is cost. The school in Florida was so large, Rick, such a big school. You would have had to have 100, 150 guards. I mean, you would have had to have a lot of guards to have that building properly manned. Then you have an armed camp, whereas doing it like I think you're suggesting, and like many people in this room agree with, it costs almost nothing. I would actually give a bonus to every coach, teacher, et cetera, because they should go through training. As good as they are, they should go through a very strong, strenuous training. But I would like to give them a bonus. So let's say you gave them a $1,000 bonus for the year, and you'd have 50 or 60 of them in the school. Compare that to paying $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 each. Where are the schools going to get that kind of money? Somebody suggested last night, we're going to harden the doors. We're going to make it impossible to get in. I said, that's good, except in one instance. If the killer gets in and he closes the doors and you can't get into the school. They said, I never thought of that. Don't forget, I was in the real estate business. And when you harden those schools, you're not going to get in. But if they get in, then you're not getting in. Law enforcement's not getting in. Somebody else said, we have something that we're working on. Where do you see the cost of these things? Smoke fills into the school. Smoke. So you have a guy standing there with a weapon, and now he's getting crazy because there's smoke all over them. All he's going to do is shoot endlessly. He's going to go nuts. This is another plan. This is a new one. I'm sure put out by some company that wants to make a lot of money. Smoke is going to fill the room and fill the hallways. That's not going to help. And then law enforcement's going to go and fight through the smoke. They're not going to know what they're shooting. This is a serious plan. I think I talked that particular person out of it. But I do. When you talk about hardening, the other thing is this, harden. You harden. The cost to your schools and your communities and the federal government will be astronomical when you start putting in main doors, closing other doors, changing hallways around, You're talking about hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, and you can do it for nothing. As you and myself and our great governor from Texas and others, I think there are 9 states that do it that way, and they're thrilled. They're thrilled. And you know what it says? Come on in, folks, come on in. But they're not coming in because they don't want to get shot. Look at this guy, Cruz. He leaves with the students. He tried to sneak away. And I'll tell you, one policeman who did a good job was the one that caught him a couple of communities away. It wasn't even Rick in that community. I know all those communities, but it wasn't in that community, sort of far away. And he said, that's the guy, I think, that maybe did it based on a description. And he went out and he got him. Now, they would have gotten him anyway, I guess, but who knows how much more damage would have been inflicted. So he did a great job. Look, law enforcement's great. But we all learned something when we saw Peterson standing outside of that school. He wanted no part of it. He heard the power and he heard probably the screaming and the bullets, and he wanted no part of it. And then 3 other guys came to help. They wanted no part of it. That was a terrible, terrible job. The only worst job is that they didn't nab this guy early because he had 39 red flags. That was the worst job. So I think we learned a lot. But if you don't have retribution, if you're not going to do something very serious to these guys when they walk in, they're going to keep walking in. You're going to have this all the time. You're going to have it. They have to know. They walk in, they're going to probably end up dead. And if they know they're going to end up dead, they're not going into that school.
In my year as First Lady, I have also learned that it's oftentimes after a tragedy that you see the strength and resilience of the human spirit. I have been heartened to see children across this country using their voices to speak out and try to create change. They're our future, and they deserve a voice. I know all of you are seeing this in your own states and territories too. And I believe that if we all come together, we can start to affect positive change for our children and help prepare them for their futures. As I have said before, it is important that as adults, we take the lead and the responsibility in helping our children manage the many issues they are facing today. This means encouraging positive habits with social media and technology, even limiting time online, and understanding the content they are exposed to on a daily basis. This also means taking the time to teach them about the real dangers and drug abuse and addiction. This country is in the middle of an opioid crisis. Let's use that grim reality as a tool to stop this epidemic. Before you leave to go back to your wonderful states and territories, I'm asking you all to join me today and commit to promoting values such as encouragement, kindness, compassion, and respect in our children. With those values as a solid foundation, our kids will be better equipped to deal with many of the evils in our world today, such as drug abuse and addiction and negative social media interactions. In my role as First Lady, I want to nurture and protect the most valuable part of our society and our future, children. I hope you will join me today in my efforts and ask for your support. My office will be reaching out to many of you in the future as we travel the country and work to promote and fight for the well-being of our children. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for all that you do for your home states and territories. God bless each of you and your families, and God bless the United States of America.